I mean, I was told by my film professor, there are films and there are movies, and sometimes you've got to know what you're walking into.
Yeah. See, but I come from a time when movies were films.
A young boy learns that he has extraordinary powers and is not from this earth. As a young man, he journeys to discover where he came from and what he was sent here to do. But the hero in him must emerge if he is to save the world from annihilation and become the symbol of hope for all mankind. Man of Steel released in 2013, directed by Zack Snyder. The story for this film is by Christopher Nolan and also David S. Goyer. And also Christopher Nolan is here as the producer for this movie, as alongside with Deborah Snyder and some other names here as well. And before we go into it, an important thing to mention is that the score here is from Hans Zimmer. This might be a top 3 Hans Zimmer composed movie. It's insane. If it wasn't for Dune Part 1 and Part 2, he would be definitely with this film as number 1 for the best composed movie. I mean, him alone, he has an incredible just career of incredible scores that it's hard to even compose the top 5 for movies that he's done. But this one, it's a comfortable lock for at least number 5, if not top 10. It's an incredible score around the way. This movie has nothing but bangers all across the board. A quick side note that's going to be very important for this episode. Back when I was working at Chick-fil-A, I worked at Chick-fil-A from, I don't even know, this is weird, math is hard, 2022 to 2023, I was at Chick-fil-A. I had a coworker, his name was Justin, and he was not a fan of Man of Steel. I was, as you could probably tell from I've been glazing this film before we even talked about it, but still, I'm a very heavy Man of Steel fan. I understand its flaws, but still, I'm a fan of the movie, and he is definitely not at all a fan of Man of Steel. He thinks it's very bad, and we always used to kind of debate about it a little bit when we were working at Chick-fil-A. But he said something to me when I was working there about Man of Steel that really stuck with me to this day and made me realize what this movie is and why it isn't good. When me and Justin were debating one day, he told me that Man of Steel is a good movie, but not a good Superman movie. Once again, this is a good movie, but a bad Superman movie. And originally, in me, I thought that he was wrong, and then I kind of realized that he really isn't. This movie is great, but what Superman should be, it's not that at all, which is definitely good or bad, depending on who you ask. But still, he wasn't lying. I do believe this is a great film, and it's one that I really do enjoy, but I would be lying if I said this was a good, proper Superman movie. It's not a good Superman movie. In fact, if we're being for real, this might be the worst Superman movie. But as a movie, it's great. But for the Superman stuff, it's not good at all. Maybe one of the worst ever. And originally, I would have argued with him, and my original thought with this episode has been in development for a couple years now. I've been wanting to do this episode on Superman, Man of Steel with Henry Cavill. This has been something in the back of my head for since 2023. I've been really wanting to do this episode, and now I'm finally here talking about it. And originally, I wanted to defend this movie, but now I realize I really can't do that. I understand that this film is guilty of being a bad Superman movie, but that's the point. I know you may have just left at that moment, but still, that's the point. This movie isn't a good Superman film. It was never supposed to be, and that's why they had in mind to make this movie not the best to be faithful for the character, but something to really grow and learn off of to be a better Superman film down the road. It makes literally no sense, but still, I'm going to kind of explain it as we go through the movie here today. And of course, always my manners are out the window today. My name's Logan. Welcome to the Court of Cinema podcast. And here we talk about everything film and TV. Mostly movies, but still, I'm trying to do more TV shows. Actually, just a quick side note, I just watched Andor, finished Andor season 1 and season 2. Andor is insane. That is a solid, at least 9 out of 10 TV show. Andor's fire. I may talk about that later, but, still, today's Man of Steel. We're obviously, as you may know, very close to a new Superman film, and that new Superman film from James Gunn, we got a new trailer last week, and the trailer looks insane. James Gunn is cooking. We're in very good hands. That movie, new James Gunn Superman film, we haven't had any kind of press release or, private screening or premiere in any kind of way. But I think right now, without any kind of reviews or anything, this might be the best Superman film ever made. I mean, really, the new James Gunn film might be the best Superman film ever made. I haven't seen it yet, but still, my theory, this is going to be at least a top 2 Superman film of all time. It might surpass the Reeves one if it does it right, and I think it really will. But still, today we're talking about Man of Steel, and before I do anything, we should talk about real quick here, why is Man of Steel so dark? And it's definitely something that I've kind of theorized a little bit as to why this film is so dark and why they didn't make it a very, hopeful and lighthearted movie. It kind of makes sense. I think that in the back of, DC and Warner Brothers, their goal was to make this film dark because they thought that that's what people wanted out of a Superman film, because movies surrounding this film in the recent years have all been very dark in recent memory. If you looking at 2013, that's when this movie came out, you have a lot of very popular films that are very, very dark. For example, in 2013 alone, just a quick glance at this year, we have Hunger Games, Catching Fire. It's a very popular film that's very, very dark. The MCU at this point is well underway. Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World. The Marvel films are still overall kind of lighthearted, but still those movies are known to have moments of being a dark movie. Then also Pacific Rim. List goes on. There's a lot of very serious and dark tones along these movies from this year. But looking mainly, let's go to a blast from the past here. When Superman Returns came out in 2008, I believe. 2006, I apologize. That movie was made to be a soft reboot of the Reeves movies, and it was supposed to be very lighthearted, a very, kind of comic accurate, lighthearted Superman that we all know and love, and that movie flopped. It flopped in terms of finances. People didn't really like it a lot much. The critic side wasn't that good either, and money didn't make any money either. So the sign for this movie doing bad wasn't the bad scripts or the messy plot or the bad characters. It was the fact that I think that not Disney, I'm sorry, they're on the back of my head like all day. But I think that Warner Brothers saw this movie fail and thought to themselves, people want a darker movie, even though that doesn't make any kind of sense at all. That was the thought process for sure. I mean, Superman Returns is that same movie in which Superman did not throw a punch the entire film. In fact, there's really no big action sequences with Superman in that movie. So that really, off rip, is just letting people kind of be a little bit bored, which I definitely was. But still, the movie wasn't bad because of the lightheartedness and the lack of action. That was a very big part of it, but still, that wasn't the main reason why that movie failed. It was one of the reasons for sure, but not the main one in any way, shape, or form. But still, that's what DC thought, and that's why they moved on away from that and decided to go into something a little bit darker. I mean, looking at what worked in the 2000s, it definitely was not Superman in any means. Looking at films that actually worked in 2000s, one, the Dark Knight trilogy. That definitely worked a very good margin. Looking at Batman Begins, then The Dark Knight, those came out in 2000s. Also, Lord of the Rings trilogy worked out very well. Also, Gladiator was really good. And list goes on from a lot of very good darker movies, like Harry Potter movies were also very dark, worked out very, very well. In addition to the Star Wars prequel trilogy also came out during this time, also with the same common theme for all these movies, is that they're all pretty dark films. The Dark Knight trilogy, obviously, superhero movies that are very, very dark. Everyone loved it. Even the Raimi trilogy movies are also films that are very dark at times, that have very good action sequences. That also follows suit with everything else from this era, to where these action movies for teenagers are being these darker movies that they're really starting to enjoy more. Even The Incredibles is a more kids movie that's still very dark adult themes. So what I think happened here was that DC saw Superman Returns didn't do good, therefore people want a Superman film that's more like the Dark Knight trilogy. Is that accurate? No, we just want a better written movie with better acting and so on and so forth. And this movie definitely came close to different variables, but still, this film did not need to be a Dark Knight trilogy level dark movie. And definitely, you can tell, misunderstood the character a lot in this film. But still, they decided to go with that. That's what they thought actually worked. Therefore, they bought on the same guy who directed the Dark Knight trilogy. They brought him in to write this movie and produce it as well. So that was definitely in mind for sure. It was definitely a huge flaw. But still, that's what they went with, which I don't agree, but that's just what happened. So that's just my theory in terms of what I think went wrong, what I think happened into which this movie was so dark because they thought that if they got the same guy who did 300 and also Watchmen, two films that are very dark and definitely pretty popular, they thought that that was going to be the thing to fix Superman. But it really didn't. It actually made it a lot worse in a lot of people's eyes. Now, what was my first experience and my first thoughts with the movie? Well, it came out in 2013. I was still in elementary school. I love this movie. This movie is still my Superman. Regardless of what you say, I understand it's not that good, this and the third. It's still my Superman. It may not be perfect, but still, it's the best I got. I gotta run with it. Same with like how with Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield is my Spider-Man. He's not the best, but still, he's my Spider-Man no matter what. I just have to deal with it. It's not the best movies, but still, it's my childhood. I gotta love it no matter what. So now looking at the, release and reception, what happened to this film financially, critically, it's a lot of different things. Number one, this film had a budget of $225 million, and the film made out $670.1 million worldwide, which is definitely what we want to see. As you know, if I do my little math chart thing, the rule of thumb generally is that you want to take the movie's budget, multiply that by 2.5, and that's roughly what you should get. So this film definitely made profit looking at the budget, and that's definitely a very good thing. That's what DC wanted, therefore they gave this film a Man of Steel 2.5 with Batman vs. Superman, and then, it all went downhill from there. So, moving on, there's still more to talk about here. We have Rotten Tomatoes. This film has a 57% critic score and a 75% audience score. Definitely pretty solid. Not perfect, but still, it's not terrible either. Then going over to the Roger Ebert website. Roger Ebert sadly passed away once this film came out, but I do have a review here from Matt Zoller-Seitz, who gave this film a 3 out of 4 stars. And then in his review, he says that as the adult Clark Superman, Henry Cavill is in fact, he's quite likable and spectacular, handsome, but there's no Reeve-like radiant comfort in his acting, because the character, as imagined here, is even more of a blank screen of our projections than most superhero movies. And I definitely have to agree here that Clark Kent in this movie, and, definitely Henry Cavill, he's not hopeful. He's not like Christopher Reeve, and that's definitely, like I said, that's the point. That's just how the character was written. That's how he was directed by everyone on set. He wasn't directed to be happy and charmful and cheerful. He definitely can do that, but that's not what they had in mind for this movie. Therefore, it is what it is. And then over on Letterboxd, we do have a 3 out of 5 average. And usually in these Letterboxd reviews, I try to take a review from someone that doesn't have a lot of followers, just kind of this sounds so bad, a regular person on Letterboxd, and not someone with like 10, 20,000 followers on Letterboxd. But today, I had a review here from George Carmy. I've been following him on Letterboxd for like 3+ years now. It's actually kind of crazy, but still, regardless, got a review here from George Carmy. He gave this film a 4.5 out of 5. Definitely falls more in line with my review and my rating, which I definitely did appreciate. But also, it just spoke to me the best, and definitely, I tried reading a lot of different reviews, but this one stuck with me the most, and definitely do like it the most out of anything I ever saw. And a very quick swear warning is definitely in suit, so if you happen to have some little ears in the back, definitely, skip to like a couple of minutes after this. But still, in George Carmy's full review, he says this is how you really help yourself. Put on a movie you fucking love. And I mean really love. Fuck the critics. Fuck the toxic shit talk comments. Fuck what anyone says. If you love it, you're valid. If you love it, wear it as a badge and let the world know. Lose yourself in what you love. Escape reality. Let your mind run through film. Man of Steel is my love. Always has been. Always will be. And if you know me, you know how much I love this movie. I have a lot of passion with it. And that spoke to me the most, just as to, I love Man of Steel. I understand it's wrong. It's not a good movie. It actually is flawed throughout in terms of what Superman should do. But still, I love the movie. That's what I really do enjoy. If you hate it, I'm sorry that you didn't really see my vision. But still, if you love it, you know how much I care about it. So, and that's what we're going to go through today. The movie isn't perfect, but still, it's my movie. That's all that matters. So, if you want to go, you can go. But still, we're going to go ahead and start diving into the meat and potatoes for Man of Steel 2013. So starting off here, I just have to start the glaze of this movie just off rip. The opening scene of the birth of Clark Kent, one, that's the crux of this entire journey, obviously. But two, the directing in that scene is incredible. That's maybe, I think for me, that's one of the best directed scenes out of any Superman film so far, if not number one. I understand the Reeves films had some heat too, but if you're saying that a scene in the Reeves movies is directed better than the opening scene from Man of Steel, I can tell that you rely too much on nostalgia. That's just me. But still, politics aside, I think the opening of this movie showing the birth of Clark Kent the birth of Kal-El being the first birth in centuries, that his very existence, Kal-El just being born, is filled with so much burden already. Since he first tasted life was burden for him to be great because he had the choice of what he was able to do. That is everything already to me. Also, I'm a big fan of just how long the opening is for this Krypton era of the movie. This is really, I think, the longest and the most we've gotten out of any Superman film in terms of giving us this much lore and depth for what Krypton was and why Krypton fell. I mean, it's important for the movie. Obviously, them having Zod, you have to have more meat on the bone for the opening. But still, I do think it's very, well liked. It's definitely well received for me. I think that's something that's to be desired looking back at the other Superman films. Having this much in the opening for Krypton is very cool. I'll admit it. Another positive off rip is the costume design and set design for Krypton is very cool. I love the costumes for everyone in this opening. The armor for all the Kryptonians, it's so bulky. It looks like some Halo and Warhammer inspired thing, but the texture and the design of everything is so like alien-like. You can tell that the design for everything looks like it either came from a different part of time or a different planet entirely. It looks nothing like what Earth armor or stuff looks like, which is, obvious, but still, the design is so cool. It can so easily be corny, but still, it looks incredible in this movie. Also, just the production design and sheer scale and scope of everything of Krypton is so cool. I mean, still, it's a different planet, but the way they sell it, the way they shoot it, it looks awesome. And overall, I have no notes for this Krypton section. It's obviously very different. It looks like it's literally, thinking about it now, it looks like a dying planet, which is what it is. But still, the planet looks so grim, and there's just so much with the opening. The design of Krypton, it's very cool. If you can tell by my tone of voice and how passionate I am about it, it looks very cool. I gotta admit, I have a lot of love for that. Even just the ability for this movie to establish the themes and the stakes off rip. It's so quick with it. It's so quick to let the audience know just how important this movie is and just how much it means for Clark's very existence in this movie. Showing all of that within the first 20 minutes, having this much in the first 20 minutes is beautiful. I think it's very, very cool. I love seeing, obviously, Kal-El's father going to see the Codex, taking the Codex away, which is essentially, it's the blueprint and archive to make Kryptonians. That's what the Codex is. And him instilling that same genetic code of everything into Kal-El's body, seeing that they just wanted Kal-El to be the last hope for Krypton, the last son of Krypton, the last heir of everything, and the ability for their race to live on. I mean, they weren't sure what he was going to do, but still giving him the choice to be whatever he wanted to be and giving him the future of their planet instilled in his very genetic bones is, I think, what already just gives so much theme and purpose to Kal-El's life, which I think is definitely a lot for the audience, but still the ability to make me care, to make me and you care off rip about what's happening in this movie just within the first 20 minutes. It's a lot. Starting a film, starting a franchise is not easy in any means, shape, or form. This movie does it pretty good. And Kal-El's parents giving him the freedom that they couldn't have. They had to be born into specific roles. Then seeing the destruction of Krypton, and with the destruction of Krypton, them knowing that they have to be the last people to die on Krypton, knowing that they were important to the reason Krypton fell, is so sad, and it's so deep, and it's so really everything. I feel like we never saw this much in the previous films, to this extent at least. We know just how important, Kal-El was with Krypton. We saw that in the first Reeves Superman film, but we never got this much juice in those movies to where it's this extensive. It was never like this much, but I definitely think is giving it an edge up above those previous films. Seeing the reason why Kal-El was more than a child, but also a second chance for Krypton, is enjoyable. It's cool to see. Also cool to see the Jor-El and also Zod fight is extremely cool. I definitely do enjoy that. Like I said, I'm feeling some Halo / War and Hammer inspiration with that armor. The big bulky armor, the slow attacks, it's all there. It's very cool and clunky. I appreciate it. Also, I'm very appreciative of that. They both, Jor-El and Zod, want what's best for Krypton. Previously, we saw that Jor-El tried to go to the Council for Krypton to save the planet, to go to the stars, to see other planets, but still, they didn't want that. I love seeing that they both want what's best for Krypton, but different ways about doing it. That reminds me a lot of last year I talked about the X-Men movies. We talked about X-Men, seeing Professor X and also Magneto. They're the same boat, both wanting the best thing for their race, but in very stark contrasts is beautiful. I love seeing those kind of relationships in films. I hope we do see Zod eventually in the DC movies. That may not happen. You know, we have a lot of other cool Superman characters to go through. Like, you know, Brainiac is a very cool Superman villain. Also, you know, Darkseid, more of a Justice League villain, but still, that could be cool to see also. And list goes on. But Zod, he's a very cool character. I can never get enough of him. Him in this movie with Michael Shannon, he does an incredible job here with this role. I mean, really, it's become, at one point it was iconic, now it's kind of corny, but still a very, very cool film, very, very cool villain. I definitely do love the villain a lot, more than a lot of other characters in the actual movie. Also, you know he's a goated villain when him and his goons, when they're sent away to prison, they get sent up in, you know, giant penises and condoms. That's like a very, you know, like well-known internet meme that Snyder did that because he's a very dirty and minded person. That's cool. It's sick. I love that Snyder could do that. No one else could do that. I don't think that James Gunn could do that in his new Superman film, but still, Snyder did it here. It's not something that really anyone wanted to happen in this movie, but still, it did, you know. So, a win is a win in our book. That's what I always say. But like I said, getting sidetracked here, that was a 20-minute opening for this movie. This opening for this movie is 20 minutes long. That's giving us so much juice, so much meat and potatoes, so much of why I should care about this character and about this movie is because I was told and also shown, and also now I believe why I should care this much about the character and his journey. One of the things I love a lot and what definitely gives me so much more of an edge over other Superman films is that this movie is just so intimate. I'm not saying that the other Superman films didn't have any kind of intimate moments, but this movie being this very long coming-of-age character story, it is like a Batman Begins, but with Superman. As we know, that was the point of what they were trying to do. They wanted this film to be like the Dark Knight trilogy, which is definitely a tragic misstep, but still, it kind of worked to a degree in some areas. It also is, at times, and definitely throughout the film, avoidant of telling the traditional Superman story. We're cutting from the crash when the movie is going on to show him crashing on Earth. It cuts to the future. It's in a non-linear way, like we had with, obviously, Dark Knight movies, had a non-linear storytelling, and a lot of other superhero films kind of have that also. But still, this one does it, I think, pretty cool also. You know, you definitely feel the Christopher Nolan effect here. The stories by him here. Also, he's producing the movie. How much of say did he have in the film? We don't really know, but still, I feel that Nolan-ness here. We're just the non-linear storytelling alone. I love the oil rig scene in the movie. It might be one of my favorite scenes throughout the entire film. Really just showing Superman saving the day on the oil rig because he can, then running around the world trying to find himself because he's just so confused. That's really the big word I think for this movie is confusion, trying to find yourself, being lost. It's something that we all can go through, and we haven't seen that with The Man of Steel. It's a more realistic approach. It's more of a realistic film, which no one really likes films being realistic all the time, but still, here, it's a refreshing way to go about telling the story that I do enjoy. Definitely, as I've been going through all these Superman films, the other Superman films, whenever we see them, they're never confused about what they should be doing or how they should be doing it. They can be kind of confused on how to stop a villain, but they're never confused on what it means to be Superman. They're never, in any moment, confused about that. At least, maybe in Superman 3, no, yeah, I think it was 3 when he became the evil Superman. That was a weird moment. We never really liked it. But still, besides that, in all of the movies, Superman is ever confused or lost on how to be Superman or what Superman means. He's never really a bad Superman in any kind of moments. That's what makes this movie so different, and also, I think, in a lot of points, very brilliant in that way. There's some moments I'm going to highlight here as we go further into the film, but there's moments I'm going to go into where I think that it's not this movie misunderstanding the character. I think that they understand what Superman should be, but their approach and lens is that this is a young Superman, a Superman that doesn't know how to do anything at all, which definitely hinders his ability to do anything, but still, it's what makes them so wrong, but also so smart in a way that we know, and science has been open about it, that this movie and this Henry Cavill Superman was supposed to be on like a 4 or 5 movie arc, right? So going into Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League, and then maybe a couple other films. He was supposed to grow into the Superman we know and love, which definitely is a very big ask, but still, it's brilliant and kind of smart and cool to see that they wanted to take this multi-film approach to have him become Superman we know and love. It's a lot, and it's a big ask, and one that's definitely hindered the film a lot as we go through the new ones, and also this one here. It does a lot of bad things bad. Another moment I really do enjoy is seeing Superman in the classroom getting his powers and also just so confused and scared as to what's happening. That's a side of the story that we never always get. We do get it here and there. In the first Superman film, it was there. Also, Superman Returns, it was there for a little bit. But still, we never really get this side of the origin, which I definitely always appreciate when I see it. I mean, moments of him getting his powers and seeing everything around him. He has the X-ray vision, the super hearing. He's getting the heat vision too in a little bit. Hearing all the kids around him saying that he's weird and a freak. Then having his mom come to school. Those are moments that we don't always get in superhero films at all. But still, when it's here, it stands out so brightly. And it's one that I really will always appreciate and enjoy. There's so many of these moments in the film of him as a child that stand out above anything else. Him saying, "What's wrong with me, Mom? The world's too big. I don't know how to control any of this." Then his mom saying, "Just make the world smaller." That scene, that line of dialogue always sticks with me, even from when I was a little kid watching it to now as someone who's 21 years old. It's always stuck with me. Is that maybe me being a little bit, kind of stupid? A little bit. But, still for the most part, also because of just how strongly written these moments can be in the movie. I mean, there's moments in the film where you start to question, why is it hated so much? That's what I go through a lot watching this film. And now there are some moments in the movie where I definitely will say, okay, I see why you hate the film. I definitely agree with you. Like a moment right here. There's a moment after Superman saves the oil rig, then it explodes. All of his clothes are blown off. There you go. Superman goes to a little small fishing village kind of thing, and he steals clothes, which I think is a big no-no for anyone. I mean, don't steal clothes. I remember watching, it was a Cosmonaut Variety Hour video. Many years ago, I watched it. And then he said that in this moment, it would be a lot if Superman walked up to the door and said, "Excuse me, hi, my name's Clark. I need some clothes real fast. Can I borrow those?" That could have made for a very Superman moment. That's something that Reeves would do. If Christopher Reeve's Superman was in this moment, he would walk up to the door all polite and shy and say, "Hi, I'm Clark. I need some clothes real fast." Those are small moments that can mean a lot and make great Superman moments. But here, seeing that my Superman is a guy who goes around stealing someone's clothes out of their car and then sneaks away, those are moments that I'm like, I'm not really a fan of that. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. It makes sense in the moment, but for Superman, no, that's not something you do at all. That is one of the moments that is clearly them understanding their vision, but misunderstanding the character overall intentionally was, in the long run, a tragic misstep for sure. That's very clearly one of the cases where my friend Justin, I definitely understand him here, saying that the movie is fine. I mean, that scene of him stealing clothes is shot like a normal movie. It's actually a fine movie, but that is a bad Superman moment. That makes it a bad Superman movie off rip. We're not even like an hour in, but still, that makes it a very bad Superman film for that one little action. I definitely have to agree with him here, and with everyone else here, I definitely do agree. But another moment that I think is very good, a very good moment for the film, and also I think also just a good Superman moment is him as a kid saving the bus. And this one moment also is just so much for me. I mean, him saving the bus, he's growing up at a time to where his parents and his father doesn't want him to show off his powers, and the fear of him being taken away adds this weird level of tension to this part of the movie, which is where the film gets a lot of its criticism. I understand completely. In the scene after he saves the truck from drowning with all of his friends in it, it's clear that Clark's dad knows that he can save the world. He's aware of his powers, but he's afraid of what the world will think of him and do to him if this even happens. This whole film and this whole part of the movie really suffers because of Clark's dad knowing what he can do, but afraid that the world won't accept him, afraid of the negative that will come from people knowing about who he is. That's where a lot of the criticism comes of the movie, even as we go into his death scene, really lingers on that alone, which I definitely think is not really the best thing at all for the movie. Those are all moments here that makes this movie, in a lot of people's eyes, a bad Superman film. Hey, you're Superman. I know you can be Superman, but don't be Superman for me. That's moments like that in which it just doesn't make any sense. It makes the movie so frustrating as a fan to watch that. And I have to admit, it makes it weird for me too, but I definitely understand it's more of a, like I said before, a realistic Superman. You may not like it. I understand why you don't, but that's the road that they chose of the movie, and one that we gotta live with at the end of the day. And it's moments that can find a way to defend themselves in the movie, like in later moments, like when Clark says, should I have let those people die inside the bus? And his dad says, maybe, you should have. And that's a moment that gets a lot of hate online. I see that moment gets so much hate in terms of what in the movie gets the most hate. It's definitely Zod's neck snap, and then also right after that, Clark's dad saying maybe they should have died in that bus. And it's so weird to say that, but still it shows just how dark and serious this movie wants itself to be for really, I think at times, no reason. You know, I definitely think that it would have sufficed if his dad said, hey, don't use your powers. That would have sufficed. But them really edging on and on and on and just prying on and on about this being the way. His dad thinking that this is the way. Don't use your powers. Don't save anyone. I don't care if anyone dies. Even myself. Don't show your powers. The world isn't ready. That's what he thought for years, and that's what lingers about this film and makes it, like I said, frustrating. So frustrating. And even later in this moment, seeing him take his son down to the shed and showing him the ship, saying that you were sent here for a reason, even if it takes the rest of your life, you owe it to yourself to figure out what that reason is. One, my favorite quote in the entire movie, but two, it does also, I mean, you have to realize that in this moment, Clark's dad is raising a literal god. I mean, he's never really done this before. No one on Earth besides Mary and Joseph have raised a god in their life before. He's the second person to ever do it. So he's definitely kind of alone and kind of weirded out and definitely misunderstood in terms of how he should be raising this Christ-like messianic figure that at one point, I mean, everyone thought that there was no other person in Earth who can do these miracles, yet still, you know, it's a lot to go through. A lot in terms of, you know, messianic figures and Jesus, and then going to, you know, Superman. It's a lot on that alone, but still, it shows just how much this film wanted to be and wanted to do. But at times, it feels so frustrating. At times, I can't really defend it, like in this moment with, you know, Clark's dad not thinking Superman should be Superman, yet it makes no sense at times. It really confuses me, and one that I have to live with. It is what it is, whatever. Confusing, but still, it is what it is. Can't do anything about it. Then moving on to after this, Superman defending a lady in the bar is a plus, but then Superman going on to destroy a man's truck is a big no-no. And another thing that I have to say, again, I can't really defend really any superhero doing any kind of action like this. And you may say, Logan, in Superman 2, he did the same thing. Superman, in the end of Superman 2, went back to the bar and punched the guy across the bar in Superman 2. Well, guess what? If you go back into the episode, I was also someone who was extremely vocal about that and saying that Superman shouldn't do that. That's an abuse of his powers, and what he's able to do, he shouldn't do that. Superman here also that's extremely dark to destroy this guy's truck, also causing this big hazard in the middle of the road that could have started a massive fire. Someone could have gotten into a car accident. Someone could have gotten electrocuted. once again, this is Superman not knowing how to be Superman. He's confused and scared and angry and very emotional. I get that, but still, as a human being, you shouldn't do that at all to anyone's car. Not like you can, but still, it shows that this movie, once again, like Justin said, my friend, he was absolutely right here. The movie, it's a cool shot of the truck having some trees inside of it, but still, that is a horrible shot for a Superman film. Knowing Superman did that out of anger to someone else, extremely dark, extremely dumb, don't like it, shouldn't have happened at all, but still, that goes to show them wanting to do this multi-film arc thing, have Superman be bad in this movie, then him being the Superman we know and love later on down the line. Was the plan? Did it work out? No, but it is what it is. Again, it is what it is. It's bad, but can't do anything about it. And we're just about finished with the movie, but there's still just some more things gotta highlight real quick. I already went over how Superman's bad, that's the point, whatever. Number one, Lois Lane is cool in the movie. I didn't really mess her up until now. Lois Lane's fine. She's a cool character. I don't hate Lois Lane. I said it last episode with this, Superman Returns. I think the bar for Lois Lane, once again, not saying that it's, a disrespect to anyone at all. I love her in the role of Lois Lane here in this movie. She's great. But still, the bar for Lois Lane is kind of low. I mean, no offense to anyone. I'm not saying that she's bad, but still, the bar for Lois Lane is kind of low. You can really throw in anyone and they'd be good. Once again, not trying to throw shade at anyone at all, but still, the bar for Lois Lane, it's kind of low. She's a cool character. Amy Adams, great actress. It depends on the writing. So it is what it is. Like the bar for Zod and Henry Cavill, so much higher than Lois Lane. Respectfully, that's what it is. Also, the Fortress of Solitude design, I would have liked if it was just the ice fortress. That would have been cooler, but it is what it is. Things change. That's a minus for me. I would have liked, maybe kind of a cooler, modern, alien version of an ice castle coming out of the ground would be cool. But, for the sake of the plot and also for the sake of, them wanting to be different and break away from the classic Superman stuff, that's what they had to do. So it is what it is. Lawrence Fishburne is good as always. I mean, he's been good in The Matrix, also the MCU. He was pretty cool in that for a little bit. And now he's cool here. I don't have anything bad to say about him, never really do. The flight scene in this movie, the scene of him putting on the suit for the first time, having that incredible Hans Zimmer score, it's the best scene in the movie. It's an incredible piece of score. It's just really a top 3 Superman scene is that by far. A top 10 scene in comic book movies overall, all time, is the flight scene in Man of Steel. That has to be somewhere in there. That's an incredible scene. If you haven't seen it, you know how good it is. That's all I gotta say about it. It speaks for itself. It's the flight scene from Man of Steel. It's legendary at this point. And now we're on to the biggest moment, maybe the second biggest piece of hate that this movie gets all time, is Clark's dad's death. Pa Kent, he dies in this movie. That happens. It's kind of not always a must need to happen moment. We know in the new James Gunn movie, his dad is still alive. Superman's dad's still alive in that movie. Then also I know there's some comics and some animated shows and animated movies and stuff that Clark Kent's dad doesn't always have to die. He died in that first Superman movie. It was a very weird, he just kind of collapsed and died in 2 minutes. That was a weirdly odd moment, but better than this for sure, looking at it then and now. But once again, what makes this moment just so bad is the obvious thing here of Clark's dad not wanting him to save him because of the whole, you're not ready yet, the world's not ready, blah, 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 which I think is dumb, but still, that's what his dad chose, and it's stupid, but it is what it is. So, I can't do anything about it. It's one that I still, as a fan of the movie, I gotta give it hate because it deserves it. And it makes it frustrating that Clark wanted to do something. He was clearly strong enough, fast enough, smart enough to save his dad, but his dad wanted to keep him safe. So is his death dumb? Yes and no. I have to obviously defend this movie and defend this point to a little bit. Overall, it's a dumb decision, but still, I think that, yes, it's dumb because Clark could have saved him, but chose not to do so. Hey, I'm Superman. I have the powers of Superman. Someone I love is about to die, but still, I'm not going to save him. What are you talking about? That's like if Uncle Ben knows that Peter Parker's Spider-Man and Peter Parker has powers and he can be Spider-Man. He essentially is Spider-Man. There's no suit right now, but still Uncle Ben doesn't want Peter Parker to save him because he's just afraid of what New York will think of Spider-Man. Like, that, you see how just stupid that sounds already? That's just how dumb it is. I do have to say, once again, I love this film. It's my childhood. I give it a solid score, but still that moment, it's stupid. But still, the reason why I think his death isn't dumb, he thought the world wasn't ready for Clark, so he made him not save him. And still, it was Clark's choice not to do so. It was Clark's choice to trust his dad and let his dad die before his eyes willingly. So, at the end of the day, it's all about instinct. It's all about free will. Clark had the choice and the opportunity to save his dad, chose not to. I mean, really, we can blame everyone here. Even Martha can somehow get blamed from this. But still, it's, we can't do anything about it. It's just a movie. It is what it is. A dumb decision. That's what happened. Clark's dad died. He really shouldn't have. I understand it thematically. Do I actually agree with it? No, I do not. Once again, my original idea of this episode was to come on here and actually defend the movie, defend moments like this. But in reality, I'm not going to be devil's advocate and just say this makes total sense, even though it doesn't. It doesn't make any kind of sense. I understand it thematically, but still, it's stupid. Not a fan of it. Not a fan of the whole Snyder and Christopher Nolan thing. They weren't cooking. They were cooked a little bit. I feel like it was just dark for the sake of being dark. It was dark because the Dark Knight trilogy is dark. People want darker, grittier stuff. Therefore, let's make Superman have the ability to save his dad, but instead, he's going to watch his dad die before his eyes. That's very dark and gritty and serious and mature. That's what the kids want nowadays. No, it's not. We want a happy and joyful Superman, not this Man of Steel crap, is what I'll say. Also, a quick thing to note here that I don't have in my notes, but still I feel like it's something that people are obviously just going to critique with this movie. The movie looks dark. I don't mean like thematic dark. It looks dark in terms of the way it's shot, which is definitely, obviously, more of a stylistic design choice. Looking at, the DP and the director of the movie, that's what they had in mind. Zack Snyder and whoever the DP was for this movie shot this film with that in mind and color graded it to be a darker movie, a darker style movie. That's kind of what it is. It's kind of a weird thing to address, but still, it's not very vibrant like the new Superman movie. It's dark. It's a darker shaded movie. It's shot in a different way, different cameras, different people. That was their vision. Zack Snyder and also cinematographer Amir Mokri shot it with that in mind. That's how it went down. That's how it happened. It's dull, gray colors. That was the vision, and it was executed in this movie. That's all I can say about it. Maybe thematically, once again, they had this whole 5-movie arc. Superman starts out very depressed and sad and lost and a bad Superman. Then a few movies down the line, he was going to be happy and joyful. Maybe the tonal curve and the, editing and color grading would have been more of a vibrant tone as we go into later movies. Maybe that was their vision, but still, that's what happened. That's what they decided to do here with this movie, with the DP and the director and everyone else involved with the lighting crew. Chose to have it be like this instead of like, those early Reeves films where it was a very different color tone. But still, this is not a progress on color grading and cinematography. This is about movies and stuff. So let me get back to it. Back to the main jiggy here. Now, something that is a massive highlight with this movie, once again, also Martha and Clark's relationship. We saw it a little bit as he was younger, but here, him being Superman older and having his relationship with Martha is great. I mean, we never saw this in the Reeves movies. In the Reeves films, his mom is only there for the first, 20 minutes, and then after that, she's gone forever from these movies. She dies off screen, I guess, in between Superman 2 and 3, is when we'll say it happened. And after that, we never really saw Clark have a relationship with his mom, which I definitely was desiring a lot, looking back at this movie versus that. It's left to be desired for sure. Another fat highlight here is Zod's entrance. Zod's enters this movie is insane. I mean, him coming on the TV broadcast, taking over the entire planet, speaking different languages, saying we're here for Clark, surrender him right now, or we're going to come down there and mess stuff up, is crazy. That's a super cool and threatening scene. I love that sequence a lot. I love Zod in this movie. Then Superman going to church, speaking to the priest in this movie, is a very overlooked Superman moment. it's a very cool Clark Kent scene of him going to church, speaking to a priest about what he should do, being the alien. It's cool. I mean, it's very cool seeing the messianic figure believing in the Messiah. Kind of gets confusing, but still, I definitely do enjoy that. Also, what I enjoy, Superman being in handcuffs. That poster of him in handcuffs is one of the best posters for a comic book film ever. Like top 20 at least. It's one of the best posters for a comic book film ever. Him being in handcuffs, Superman in handcuffs, like those two words shouldn't even be in the same sentence. Superman in handcuffs, it just shouldn't be in the same sentence. He does it for their safety, which I think is super cool. Albeit it's a very cool Superman scene. It's actually a good Superman moment in an overall bad Superman movie. It has moments, not all the time, but it's here. And we're just about in the third act here of the movie, but still, there's a couple of things to go through. Number one, when Superman's captured on the ship, then Zod shows him all that evil stuff. He does that like Jesus-esque pose when he floats out of the ship. That's also controversial for some reason. I feel like that happens a lot in movies in general. I mean, characters having this higher power, messianic, godlike figure. I mean, the Bible's been around for centuries now, so it makes sense that some of our favorite shows and comics have those iterations and inspirations from Jesus. It's okay. It isn't exactly abnormal. It's happened for a while. It happened in Dune, and et cetera, and et cetera, et cetera. It comes and goes. It is what it is. It happens. Relax. Stop being so soft. Now, our next thing here is that the Superman fight scene with Zod's goons is a great fight scene. I mean, Snyder knows how to do action. If you want to say anything at all, you have to admit, Zack Snyder knew how to direct action sequences and did it very well. Have to admit. I mean, the movie also isn't exactly heavily reliant on action, but when action shows up, it shows up, and it's actually going to be pretty freaking good. I think up until now, the only action fighting scene that we had previously was with Superman's dad against Zod in the opening of the movie had that. Jor-El and Zod's fight was super cool, a very small little fight. This is actually, I think, the first, full-fledged Superman fight scene in a very long time. And also, this movie, if you couldn't already guess by my tone of voice, has maybe the best Superman fighting scenes out of any Superman movie. And, we have the other ones too, Batman vs. Superman, Justice League. Technically, aren't Superman films, so still, this one, phenomenal fight choreography. Zack Snyder knew how to do it. He had a lot of sauce, I'm not going to deny you. So now, third act time to get a little bit serious here, time to grab your popcorn, grab your jersey, we're into the game at this point. So, third act here, it's here. What's exactly happening? You've seen the film, so you should know, but still, if you haven't for some reason, Superman has to stop Zod. Zod wants to make Earth into Krypton and bring more life to Krypton. Revive Krypton, revive Kryptonians. That's his whole gist thing here. And he's doing that with the help of the world engines, which I think the world engines in this movie is so iconic. It's just so cool. At this time also, there was, the whole thing of aliens are invading Earth and there's a blue light shining in the sky. And, that was such a weird thing, going with the Amazing Spider-Man, the Avengers. Also, you had Men in Black 3, all had New York or some city being taken over by aliens. Also, Transformers Dark of the Moon, New York or a city taken over by aliens, a blue light in the sky. That was like a copy and paste thing throughout Hollywood for a solid few years. It was actually kind of scary. You can fact check me if you want to. It's actually a little bit weird. It's a weird franchise of the same thing happening to the city again and again and again. Kind of scary. Specifically, though, still in this movie, despite it copying a lot of stuff, the scene of Superman in the Indian Ocean with the world engine is such an overlooked Superman moment. This one also, for me, I overlooked ones for a lot too. I overlooked just how cool this scene was for a minute, but still, rewatching it, seeing the scene again, seeing Superman just struggle with the Indian Ocean world engine is such a beautiful moment. I mean, really, it's everything. Him giving his final all to it is awesome. I really do love that. Then also in this third act, a moment that I didn't realize just how important it was till later on in my life. I've seen this movie countless times. FX, I used to watch a lot of cable. FX played like this movie, Avengers, and then X-Men Origins Wolverine. Like those three movies were played on repeat for months at a time. I don't know why. I mean, someone at FX, I gotta ask them what was going on. They had to have signed some kind of blood oath with those studios to play those three movies every day, like 4 times a day. It was on like all the time. Man of Steel was played a lot growing up. I had to watch it just, by me, loving the movie, but also just they didn't play anything else on TV at all. It was kind of annoying. But still, I never noticed just how important it was for Superman to fight Zod and the last of his race he's fighting in this film, showing the sacrifice that he has to give. I mean, the movie overall has been him just fighting between two parts of his life. If he's human or if he's Kryptonian or if he's Superman, how can he be that? And what does it mean to be those three? And how can you bring them together? Him being confused and scared and him having to confront everything right here in this moment. He loves Earth. He loves humans. He loves his mom and Lois. He also is in love with her in the movie. And he also loved Krypton. He loved, I think, the idea, or maybe he was so confused and lost and scared of what it meant to be Kryptonian that he has the ability now to have Krypton be brought to Earth. And he has that opportunity, but still he decides not to do it. It's a lot of weird frustration and weird things happening in this movie with Superman and Zod and Krypton that I really do enjoy. I really do love these complex themes, these complex ways of confronting the character and their motives. It's all beautiful. But of course, Superman tells Zod that Krypton had its chance, and Krypton failed, and Krypton died, and it's time for that to die again and be born again with something new. And obviously the world engines thrown into the Phantom Zone, destroyed and gone forever. And obviously, after this, Zod survived, and the Superman and Zod fight is one of the greatest fights in maybe comic movie history, we'll say. At least one of the most iconic for bad reasons. It gets a popular rap for the fact that it does something very controversial that I'll talk about in a second, but you know what it is. But the first thing I should say is this. Number one is that Superman and Zod fighting, and I saw a comment that said, it was like a Letterboxd review, that said that you know that this movie's bad when Superman caused this universe's version of 9/11. And obviously, if you didn't tell by just the sheer destruction of Metropolis, it destroyed and killed hundreds, if not, millions of people died because of that. A lot of people died from Zod and Superman's fight alone. It was just a lot of death that happened. And still, I think that it just goes to show these are two gods fighting. And one of the gods cares about Earth, doesn't want anyone to get hurt, but the other one does not care. He wants to kill everyone in his path at this point. Zod is a soldier. He was bred and born to fight and fought for a purpose and a mission. And his mission was just destroyed before his eyes. So now he has to go and retaliate and kill the person and people that were responsible for that, which was Earth and also Kal-El. He was bred with a purpose, and when he has no purpose and nothing to lose, he's extremely dangerous. That goes to show just the level of destruction is because Zod was a dangerous person at the end of his life. And obviously, this fight scene also, like I said, is super cool. It's like maybe the closest thing we have right now to a Dragon Ball fight in live action, and being this seamless and not being at any point in like a uncanny valley moment. This is like a literal Dragon Ball level fight. Never seen Dragon Ball, not a Dragon Ball fan, never seen an episode. But still, what I would imagine a good Dragon Ball fight would look like is the third act of Man of Steel with Superman and also Zod. Very cool fight. The classic and iconic Superman throwing Zod into the air, punching him, flying into him, punching him again. There's been no one else to direct that good of a Superman fight scene since Zack Snyder. I absolutely trust James Gunn, but for now, there's a lot to go through, so we gotta wait to see how that turns out. Also, before we get to the next snap of Superman killing Zod, number one, Superman jumps over a gas truck and it explodes right behind him, and again, a big no-no. Superman would not jump over a gas tank for a super cool and iconic fit pick. That wouldn't happen. But still, it's cool to see. It is a pretty cool fit pick, I gotta admit. He had his aura. he had his fresh fit on. I got to give him credit for it. But now, sorry, again, sidetracked here. The moment that had really everyone shocked and mad and also so in love. Also, I feel like you either love it or hate this moment. But Superman killing Zod is obviously the most jarring and dark and a different kind of dark for Superman. But a really any kind of superhero film where our main character snaps the neck of their antagonist doesn't happen all the time. Doesn't happen in Spider-Man. I'd say that for sure. Didn't happen in Batman either. So for it to happen here in a Superman film, obviously you're going to be mad. That is definitely a bad Superman moment, but still a super cool and dark moment for the overall film. And him killing Zod and yelling into the sky. Number one, yelling because he just killed someone and he's never killed anyone in his entire life. And two, him yelling because he killed the last of his race is sad to see, and also makes sense for this to be the moment that sets him on the path to be a better person, a better Superman. That was the moment and the things that they wanted to do with this movie to make him better in their multi-film arc that they have planned for him. Now, do I defend this moment? Well, I have a quote here from Henry Cavill that spoke on Superman killing Zod. Then in his quote, he said, "The killing of Zod gave reason for the character to never kill again." Superman falling to the ground and screaming afterward, I don't think it was originally in the script, but I wanted to show the pain that he just had. He just killed the last remaining member of his species. That's the choice he made, and what made him in that moment, that he'll never do that again. Now, really, once again, I think that I would say that I defend this moment to a degree. I hate it and I love it. I'm so confused by it. Me mainly confused because I just watched the more hopeful Superman films and I saw movies that depicted what Superman should be and what Superman should do, and Superman would never snap the neck of his villain on screen. That would really maybe never happen and maybe never happen again. But still, I think that it's something that I have to defend and also not defend. It's a very weird place for me. I defend the moment because I think that characterization-wise, it was definitely supposed to be a moment to affect the character and the world and blah, blah, blah. But to something that Superman would never do. Superman wouldn't do that. Superman should not be snapping the neck of his villain, which is a thing that, that's the point of the movie. The point of the movie is that this Superman is not good. He's not supposed to snap the neck of his villains or do super dark and scary things. I mean, he's confused and scared. He just got the Superman suit last week. Give him a break. I'm telling you, give him a break. He just got the fit for Superman last week. He hasn't had the shoes on for less than a month. All right, so give him a break, please. I mean, he's so new to this. He's so afraid and scared that he's going to mess up and do stuff wrong. That's just the point of it. That's the reason why the movie was what it is. And I definitely don't agree all the way, but still, that's what they decided to do. And it did work at times. Another moment that shows that Superman had a very long way to go. Superman smashing the drone in front of that army general in the end of the movie. Smashes the drone in front of him, tells him, "Stop watching me. I'm not an evil guy. I'm not an evil person. I'm on your side. I'm a good guy." I like the scene a lot, but still, Superman smashing the drone in front of the army soldier, smashing millions of dollars worth of taxpayer money, then him flying away. He could have, once again, gotten a lot of people hurt, could have started a massive fire, etc. But still, that just once again kind of goes to show that he has a lot to learn. He has lots to go through, lots to do. So it made sense for that to be the moments that he had in the movie, showing that he was wrong and reckless and dangerous. But still, that's the point of the Superman. Don't agree, but that's what happened. Maybe the biggest sign that he was just so young and careless and reckless and had a very long way to go is the fact that he wasn't even in the Daily Planet until the end of the movie. I feel like him going into the Daily Planet for the first day of work is a symbol that he had a very long way to go. He has so much to learn to show that his journey as Clark Kent and Superman was just beginning. He was just beginning to go into the cliche of him working at the newspaper company at the very end of the movie. It was going to obviously bridge on into other films. That's very understandable. But also definitely does show just how much they misunderstand the character in the movie. It's clear that they had a vision. They understand what Superman should be, but clearly avoided like all the important blocks here. But still, my final score for the film is an A. It's an A For now, it's not an A+. This is the second best Superman film. Once again, flawed, messed up, but still, I gave it 9 out of 10. I'm a defender of it. I'm a fan of it. I'm a lover of it. I love the movie. Love the actor. Love the director. Love all of them inside this movie. Love them all. Care about them all. It means a lot to me. I love these films. Will always. Now, obviously, been recording here for over an hour, and technically, the episode's over. It's finished, but still, we have some superlatives to go through. That's a little bit of fun facts and stuff, and then we're going to get you out of here. We've been here for a very long time. Sorry for boring you for this long, but still, if you want to go, you can go. If you want to stay, we're going to superlatives, so we're going to go into that right about now.
You are a blowfish.
What? Lady, whatever you're selling, I ain't buying, yo.
Well, my name is Skylar White, yo.
I get a spot? Okay.
Now, going through superlatives very, very fast here. Number one, what's the best scene in the movie? What is the super scene in the film? The flight scene. We know that. Not a surprise. We knew that already. Now, my favorite quote of the movie, it's technically a tie. My favorite quotes are, "People are afraid what they don't understand." That's from Clark's father. Then my second favorite quote is that you will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. They risk behind you, they will stumble, they will fall, but in time, they will join you in the sun, Cal. In time, you will help them accomplish wonders. That's everything. That's such a beautiful Superman in general quote, not from this movie. In general, great Superman quote. Then my best non-Superman character is Zod. Then quickly here, we have 3 fun facts. 3 fun facts here for Buzz from the Back Lot. Now, for our first fun fact, I do have that the film released in 2013, the 75th anniversary of Superman's debut in Action Comics #1. Also, Henry Cavill refused to take steroids for this movie to muscle up for the role. He also refused any digital touch-ups or enhancements to his body in shirtless scenes. He said it would have been dishonest of him to use trickery while playing Superman, and he wanted to push his body to the limits, to develop his physique into one that was worthy of the character. And for our final fun fact here, Henry Cavill naturally had a hairy chest, and he left it untouched to this movie. He insisted that Superman had a hairy chest in the film, and rejected the notion that just because you are muscular, that you shouldn't have a hairy chest, and cited that in the comic book Death of Superman as being iconic representation in which Superman had a hairy chest. And obviously, weirdly talking about Superman and Henry Cavill's physique and also a hairy body, but still, for the MVP, none other than Henry Cavill. That's the most deserving choice for this role, and I definitely do love him still. He was done so dirty. He would have been a great Superman, but the script just wasn't the best for in terms of being a good Superman film. Unfortunately, it was definitely lackluster and lacked what it really should have been. Now, obviously, looking for the future, this series is technically over. I mean, we talked about every Superman movie, but technically, we still have Batman vs. Superman and also Justice League Snyder Cut are left. So I gotta talk about those next, technically. So stick out for those. It's going to be a great episode. But still, stay swagged out, stay cool, watch more films, watch Superman if you can. Any kind of Superman content is actually always worth it. Until next time, I'll see you boys in the movies.